Hey everybody, welcome back to Believe in Mavs. I'm Alexander Tassopoulos alongside my co-host Wyatt Huskins. And look, Luka made some history last night. OT dub against the Knicks. He hits a game-tying bucket with about 1.4 seconds left off of his own miss. He hits the opening free throw, sent him to the foul line. Really savvy move by Tom Thibodeau. Hits the opening free throw, down two, fires it off the backboard, hits the front rim, bounces around, catches his own shot, and then has a delightful little dance after he makes that shot. I mean, that has already been gifted, I guess, whatever you call it, and memed, and that's going to be recurring throughout the NBA media and Twitter through the rest of the season, I imagine. But now he's the front runner for MVP on most odds-making sites, definitely on BetOnline, which is our sponsor for this show. Go to betonline.ag, use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, 50% off your welcome bonus. What do you think about this, Wyatt? We're now 19-16. We're the sixth team in the Western Conference. We've won 4 games in a row. We won a nice performance from Christian Wood. I would say arguably the best of his NBA career against the Lakers on Christmas Day. And 2 more winnable games coming up here against the Rockets and the Spurs. 3, actually. Then we play the Rockets. And then on January 5th, we play the Celtics. So definitely a few games here where we can rack up the wins and continue to move up the ranks in the Western Conference. How are you feeling about this Mavericks team and then just immediate reactions to last night's performance, a historical 60, 20, and 10 performance from Luka Dončić?
Well, first of all, if you say GIF, you're talking about the peanut butter. If you say GIF, you're talking about the moving image. That's just me. That's how it should be. That's how the laws of the land should be. But, to each their own. I'm feeling excellent about the Mavs right now. After that comeback performance last night, in which not only did your shooters not make the threes at the same time that you usually need to win a game, right? The Mavericks, so far this season, if they make their threes, they're winning the game. If they don't make their threes, they're losing the game. And at times in this game, actually, I think throughout most of this game, you had guys making shots at certain times, but there wasn't that cohesive shot making across the entire board like you'd like to see. Luka Dončić is... I'm at a loss for words when I watch him play basketball. It's something special that I don't think you'll ever see anything like this again. And it's fun and it's amazing and it gives you all the warm feelings in your heart. And just appreciate it while it's here. Even if, knock on wood, this never happens. Even if he leaves somewhere else down the road. Just appreciate it while it's happening in Dallas because you will never see something like this again. That being said, I'm feeling really good about this team right now. 4-game win streak. Yes, 4 games. I almost second-guessed myself. 4-game win streak. We've got, like you said, 3 winnable games in a row. This team is hitting their mark about the same time as they did last year. I think people were really dejected on this team being hot, cold, night to night. You never know what you're going to get. And now we're hitting the stride at the same point, and it's like, shouldn't we have seen this coming? I mean, shouldn't we have all seen this coming?
Yeah,
I hate to be, we were all reactionary,
right?
but
it's a different roster.
It is.
It's a team without Brunson. It's a team without KP, who we did have at that time last year. And I would just like to say, I mean, the 4-game winning streak also occurring while we have guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Josh Green.
It's huge.
Who are, as we know, to be our grit and glue guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like Reggie has really stepped up. I know he hasn't, last few games, he hasn't hit a lot of shots, but he's been defending really well. Luka, I got to tip your cap to him on the defensive side of the ball because what he's doing, being able to stay in front of guys, the last second strips that he's had from guys that are getting into the lane, and his just pressure that he's applying on the defensive and offensive glass. Obviously the tip in, that counts as an offensive rebound, but earlier in that run with less than a minute left, he had another offensive rebound off of a Tim Hardaway 3 that was missed and got an and one. So he's really, he's playing more aggressive than I've ever seen him. I don't even know if he shot 5 threes in that game against the Knicks. I thought that was kind of the most miraculous thing about the game that he put together was he has truly understood that where he applies the most pressure on a defense is going to the rack and within 10 feet of the hoop. And I think it helps guys like Christian Wood, and of course the deeper into the half court offense, the deeper into the paint that Luka gets, the more open those shooters are on the outside. And guys have to step up. We only made 13 threes, so we shot 27% from three. I actually thought that the Knicks, at least in the first 3 quarters, shot way above their pay grade from behind the 3-point line. Randle was hitting him. Quentin Grimes, he's a good player.
Laser beam.
He's a good player. He's a guy that, like, if you could just pull different guys from other rosters and drop them onto the Mavs, I certainly think he would do a lot of work on our team. He's a really good catch and shoot guy, and off the dribble, he actually, looks good going to the rack. So I thought he played really well. Quickly is just, he's not ready for the big moment from a point guard standpoint, and I think they were really missing Brunson in that game. But I don't think you can't look at both those teams and say if Brunson had been in, they would have won, or if Dorian and Josh Green had been in, we would have run away with that game. It's a well-coached team, at least in the regular season. They play tough, gritty defense, and it was really, really great win for the Mavs. And yeah, man. I mean, I think the loyalty thing, right, on Dirk's statue. What's it say? What's the quote?
Loyalty never fades away.
Dirk made the statement that he'd love for Luka to play for more than 21 seasons in Dallas, and of course Luka was like, his response was, "I'd like to be on a farm in Slovenia at that point."
I don't think he wants to play basketball for 20 years.
No, but he certainly wants to play right now, and
yes,
you can see that game in, game out, and he has risen to the occasion with guys being out and Kid playing him more minutes. And I don't feel like in the games where he's played close to 40 minutes or 40 plus that his motor has gone out in the fourth quarter. I have felt that he has stayed aggressive, and credit to all the work he did in the offseason to kind of come into this season in shape and ready to play. And I'm also, I've been delighted to see Christian Wood get more minutes and have success in those minutes. And now I think I saw Kevin O'Connor post something about in the last 9 games, Wood's averaging over 20 points per game, over 30 minutes a game. The rebounds have gone up to about 9 per game, and he's shooting the 3 ball really, really well. He looks confident doing so. And I think his rim protection has also gotten better. He
looks confident in every aspect of his game.
For sure. What do you think about this, though? I think there are still some glaring just roster upgrades that we could make and we need to make before the trade deadline. And for me, it's getting another 5 that can run alongside Christian Wood, because what Mitchell Robinson in his limited minutes was able to do in the paint against us, it's still our Achilles. It's still our Achilles heel. Although that guy can't hit a free throw to save his life. I mean, that's yeah.
I mean, it in terms of a 5, right? I just don't know which move you like. Could you go get Clint Capella from the Hawks? Is he readily available? Are they ready to blow up that team? Because shout out to our sponsor, BetOnline.ag. The Mavericks have the best odds to land Trae Young as his next team.
It's plus 300 too. It's it's way too high.
It's way too high. I don't want to say obviously because they're sponsoring Believe. I think that they're maybe just throwing darts at a board right there.
Sure.
I don't think that they exactly have the inside knowledge that maybe people think that they do on this situation in particular, just because I think it's just to get a market out there, right?
Yeah.
To have some interest, to get some bets in there. If you're interested in doing something like that. If Clint Capella is available, I think he would be a decent get. I always struggle with 5s who can't stay on the floor maybe in the clinch of the game, especially when we have a team like ours that's designed around the 3-point shot. I said it earlier, we live and die by the 3. It's tough for me to envision us getting a 5, especially when it comes to playoff basketball. just for the reasons I just said.
I
In
feel like
terms of an upgrade,
the perfect fit guy is MT, right? Like, I still think
of course, yeah.
He's an anchor on defense. He can step outside.
I don't know if he's
three-point line
available though now.
I know. But I think that team has dropped now to a 500 record. They have, they've definitely regressed to their mean, and they will continue to kind of live in that kind of play-in competitive team. They'll win some games. There's too many young players on that team to actually take them anywhere in the playoffs.
Right.
But whether or not they want to move off of Buddy or Miles is a real question mark that they're going to have to solve from a GM standpoint. But he's just the perfect fit, though, and he's a guy that grew up at, he played at Euless Trinity. Like, we also have the connection with Rick. There was no love lost as Rick went on to coach for the Pacers. There's still that connective tissue with him and Mark. So I think it would be in the cards. It's just what would we have to give up, and would we be willing to do so? But he's kind of the perfect fit guy. I know he's not quite the rim runner that Capella would be, but what he can do from a pick and pop standpoint, catching weak side lobs, he can do. He's just a little less mobile, I feel like, than Capella in that sense.
If you're slating him right in next to Wood, though, do you even really need him to be a rim runner?
No.
I mean, I don't think so. I think Christian Wood is the perfect complement for Miles Turner, especially if I think that would also if we're able to get Miles Turner, and I think I'd prefer him over Buddy Hield, although I do like Buddy Hield. I think that he would be a great fit for this team. Obviously, he would get infinitesimally amount of just open 3-pointers.
Yeah.
It would be insane. He might hit 45% on his threes if he came to the Mavericks, which would be just insane. But with Miles Turner, you kind of have the perfect combo of being able to go big or small, because you can put Christian Wood at the 5 and run a small ball lineup. Although with this team, there's not really, I know we have a small ball lineup, right? But if you're able to get Seawood at the 5 and maybe make another addition I love Kemba. I love what he's brought to this team. But to maybe push Kemba out of the rotation, then you don't really even have a small ball lineup. It's just all wings that are 6'5" and up.
Right. And
then you have Seawood at the 5, and that's your small ball lineup. Could you imagine what damage this team could do in the playoffs with that combination of going big to small, big to small? It'd be insane.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think that no matter what happens with this roster, Kemba should be utilized in a way where he's playing once every 3 games, right?
Yes.
You don't need to ask too much of him, but when he comes in, let him do his thing, let him attack, really encourage him to get his shots up, because he still has it. He still has the juice. I just, we can't come to rely on him in any sort of way. But if we then, get to the playoffs and he's a guy that can give us 2 games, right, where he gives us 15 points in 2 games in the playoffs, great.
Yeah, that's huge.
And we're struggling for offense, and we need some support there. What do you think about, whenever one of these historical achievements happens in the NBA, there are as many people praising as there are critiquing the endeavor. A lot of my timeline had people talking about James Harden doing this game in, game out in his MVP season. And then, guys like Drew Hanlon, NBA skills coach, said, this is something that Joel Embiid has been doing all year. He's got more blocks, he's got more rebounds, etc. Comparing categories that I think are not necessarily related when you're talking about a 6'7" guy versus a 7'3" guy, but 7'2", however tall Joel is. The Harden stuff is interesting to me because we're certainly still playing heliocentric basketball, and that's never going to change when we have this current roster construction with Luka. But to me, he's coming into this season, he's already been a better player.
Correct. That's 100% correct.
And I know we're a Mavs podcast, so I guess it's hard to listen to us without thinking that we're biased in that regard. But I don't see how anyone can see otherwise.
James Harden is a great player. Harden was a great player with the Rockets, an even better player with the Rockets.
One of the best offensive basketball players of all time.
Luka Dončić does something that no other player outside of maybe Magic Johnson has. and that's his incredible court vision. As much as James Harden, how he racked up the assists, I mean, Luka can find a dude who's open anywhere in the half court, anywhere. It just doesn't matter. Maybe somebody runs in and gets in the passing lane and it's a turnover and whatever. That happens. That happens to everybody. But the way he gets guys open is just, it's second to none. And James Harden, great guy, great player. Luka Dončić is just it's like another level of superstardom, in my opinion. It's insane what we're seeing. Like I said, we'll never see this again in our lifetimes, I don't think. And for the people who want to compare what he's doing now to what James did, to what Joel has been doing, that's great. But to use those comparisons to try and knock Luka is just hater mentality. And if you want to have a hater mentality, that's good for you. That's fine. But don't rain on our parade when we're seeing probably the best Maverick ever. Almost up until it'll take a while for him to like officially get that title.
Right.
If he stays with the Mavericks,
he's still number 2 until he gets
correct
a ring on his finger. He's still number 2.
But the most talented that we've ever seen come into this organization, especially such a young talent, like to have his skill level at this age, at 23. This dude is younger than me. I'm only 24, but this dude is younger than me, and it's crazy what he can do with a basketball. And to just say, oh, but Joel and James Harden are doing this too. I'm sorry, it's not the same thing. It's just not the same thing. Joel is obviously doing it in different ways, but it's just not the same.
And I think, look, James Harden won the MVP that season. The season where he, for a stretch, was averaging, for a lot of the season, he was averaging like 37 points per game or something like that.
It was insane.
It really was. And, the comparison with him and Luka, I think where it falls short on James's side in his defense or lack thereof is that when the lights are shining brightest in the playoffs, in the biggest moments, he has come short, right? And Luka,
every time.
Luka last year he outscored in the first half the number 1 seed in the NBA, Phoenix Suns team, on their home court in a Game 7. You're not
going to see that again.
There is no bigger stage.
You're not going to see that again.
There is no bigger stage than that. So I think that to me is where the comparison falls short for James and for Luka. And then with Joel Embiid, the fact of the matter is, if you want to talk about MVP, you want to talk about most valuable player, when Luka Dončić is off the court, this is not a tank for Wemby team. Here is Victor Wembanyama. You are the only team that deserves him because of the rest of the team, and who guys that we've come to love in their own right because of how they contribute to this team and how they make our overall team better. But when you take Luka away from this, statistics and the eye test show that this is absolutely the worst team in basketball.
Absolutely.
And so I think that while what Joel is doing, and he had a 47-point outing in a loss last night. He also is playing alongside James Harden, who we were just talking about, who I just labeled as one of the best offensive weapons to ever play the game of basketball.
And still an elite player.
Still an elite player. Certainly a guy that is a fringe all-star this year. Tyrese Maxey, who might end up being an all-star. Tobias Harris, who deservedly should have been an all-star at one point in time in his NBA career. And I looked up at his Basketball Reference page today. He really never has been. But I thought on that Clippers team, you would have expected with where 100%. They ended up that he would have been an all-star. A guy that would be the second best player on the Mavericks, Tobias Harris.
Correct.
Yeah,
100%.
And then a myriad of other role players, guys like who's the guy they got from Memphis this year? He's playing so well for them.
It's not Shake, is it?
No, not
D'Anthony?
Oh, D'Anthony Melton, who has been.
Yes,
they're bringing
Shake
Maxey
Milton
off
and
the.
D'Anthony Melton.
Yeah,
it's so confusing.
Tough names to juggle, but Melton has been thrust into the starting lineup, and Maxey's coming off the bench. So that is a team that is surrounded by other talents, and if you took Joel off that team, I think you would still be able to see some sort of winning streak in the regular season that we saw with the Memphis Grizzlies last year when John Morant went down for such a long time.
Right.
And a good head coach, not a guy that normally gets it done in the playoffs, but a guy in the regular season that has a good structure and a good system to rack up the wins. So I just don't think that the comparison is really there right now, while I do think that Embiid is a world-class player, a top 7 talent in the NBA. It's Luka, it's Tatum, it's Kevin Durant, and it's Giannis and Jokic, who are the true like top 5 contenders for this MVP award. But if Luka gets above a 4 ranking in the Western Conference, I don't see how you can't give it to this guy.
Yeah, I don't know either, and I'll end it here because I know you got to run. People always have been questioning a lot. People who don't watch the Dallas Mavericks, I should say, question a lot on Luka giving up the ball and how is he good for this team? Is he too ball dominant? This and that. This team is constructed around a ball dominant Luka Dončić. A ball dominant Luka Dončić that also is the best playmaker on the planet, who can get guys open no matter where he's at on the floor and can find guys wherever they're at on the floor. When you have that roster construction, it's all going to be complementary players. C. Wood is the closest thing you have to a second star, right?
Yeah.
Spencer Dinwiddie is an ISO scorer, but the rest of these guys, and Spencer and both those guys are complementary players to Luka Dončić, but the rest of this roster is all complementary players. You could see an evolution with Josh Green once he gets healthy, which he's being reevaluated, I think, on Friday, which is good. We need him back. We need another defensive wing because Reggie can't do it all by himself. But to the people who question Luka Dončić and his style of basketball and what he contributes to this team, he is this team. That's just the only way I know how to say it. He is this team, and like you said, if you take him away, we are the worst team in basketball, and it's not particularly close. He does everything for this team. He's growing as a defender, and not only that, but he is growing on the offensive end, which I didn't even think was possible. I didn't think he would get better, but he's just continually getting better. And it's really, like I said, to start this off, it's special to see, and I'm excited to see how far we can take this win streak and where we end up in the Western Conference standings.
Well, and he's going to have to continue to do that to be heralded at the end of his career as an all-time great. Guys like LeBron, guys like Steph, if you look and you pay close attention year in, year out, they add little things or they focus on doing extra things that they weren't doing the year previous. And I think, the recognizing of the offensive rebounding and where he's crashing the glass to get more opportunities, easy opportunities, because as we know, when he gets within 14 feet, he's tall enough, he's big enough where it's either going to be 2 points or it's going to be 3 points because he's going to go to the free throw line and hit one after that. We still need to see him get better at the free throw line and continue to increase that percentage. We still need to see him get better from a catch and shoot 3 standpoint. But I think that it's
only a matter of time.
Yeah, where he's added certain things from a defensive standpoint and from, the offensive rebounding standpoint. And I'd also, I don't know, there's a couple of things, and even just just recognizing from an offensive standpoint from him that, like, he doesn't have to settle for step-back threes every single play. He actually applies more pressure, as I said earlier, when he's attacking. And when he gets deeper into the paint, he gets more open and quality looks for his teammates and his trust in those teammates. I mean, you saw, I think I saw some crazy statistic that said teams that are down 9 points in the last 35 seconds in the last 20 years are a combined 0 and 13,000 or something like that.
And from Tim McMahon.
Yeah, and of course that stat now has a one team in the win column, and it's the Mavericks from last night. But Spencer Dinwiddie hit a massive 3 at the end of that game.
Yes.
There was reliance from Luka upon his other teammates to step up. Christian Wood hit a huge 3-pointer in the last minute of the game. These other guys, Tim had an opportunity to hit the 3 where Luka got that offensive rebound and then the and one. He is trusting his other teammates. He has to, right? He cannot do it all by himself. He's doing as much as he can by himself. And he got to the line 22 times. And if he was shooting, 83% instead of the 74% that he's shooting, he'd be even further along in this MVP discussion, and he'd be, I think, solidified at the top of the list. But there's still room for improvement for him, which is crazy to say from what he's doing. And he's only, like you mentioned, he's only 23, which is just bonkers.
The stat is 13,884 in the last 20 seasons when trailing by at least 9 with 35 or fewer seconds remaining. That's insane. If Luka hit 83% of his free throws, we'd probably have, 4 more wins, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. And we'd be top 4 in the West, and he would be, he is the number 1, right, in the MVP discussion. He would be firmly cemented there. And I don't think, unless we had an epic collapse the rest of the way, I don't think there'd be much competition in the way. Obviously there are great players, right? Jokic is doing some incredible things in Denver right now,
he's amazing.
Incredible things.
He's amazing.
He to me is the second best player on the planet. I think it's just him and Luka, in my opinion. Obviously,
you can't not have Giannis in there.
I don't know, man. I think Giannis does some great things.
He's just he's not the similar basketball savant that Jokic and Luka are. So I understand.
They just do so much more.
Yeah,
it's just, to me, they do so much more. You have to be able to do more than. And Giannis is a great player. He's a top 5 player in this league. I don't want to come across as being a Giannis hater, because I am not a Giannis hater. But I just think that what Luka and Jokic do is just incredible and otherworldly. And Giannis, no offense, dude, but you couldn't do some of this stuff in your dreams. And that's just not even a lie. It's the truth, which is, it's just how it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, we're at the 6th spot right now. We're a game back from the Suns, who are at the 5 spot. The Kings are half a game back from us. But it looks to be as though the Western Conference, the top 6 to 8 teams have really kind of cemented themselves, and now things will fall into place how they should, as far as how the teams are coached, what their talent is, and how it's being activated on the court. The Warriors are the 10 seed right now. They're missing Steph for the next 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
So I'd expect them to jump up late in the season as they did last year. The Jazz have slipped back a little bit. The Blazers are hanging around, and the Kings are hanging around. I think both those teams are solid. But I think the Mavs should end up a step ahead of them. And then any of those other teams, on any given night, depending on how Luka plays and how the other guys shoot around him, the Mavs can be better than. We do play the Nuggets really, really well. The Pelicans are a really tough matchup for us. Mm-hmm. So I think once we get into the, now the NBA season has truly started, right? That's what they say. After Christmas Day, everybody can start paying attention for real. This Clippers team and the Pelicans team, as far as playoff matchups go, they'd be the teams I'd least want to play, just from what they have from wing depth and general depth on the Pelicans team. And the Clippers, obviously, Paul George and Kawhi are finally healthy and playing together now. So
right,
we'll see what that team can do. But
if we make one solid addition at the trade deadline and say just maybe this happens, maybe Maxey has an incredible recovery and comes back for the playoffs, how are you feeling at that point?
I feel like the West feels pretty open right now.
I think so too.
But who knows? I might feel very differently about this Nuggets team, who's 22-11 right now. But in 3 months, if I'm seeing that Jamal Murray should have been an All-Star, if the conversation is the biggest snub from the All-Star game was that Jamal Murray wasn't playing in it, which means that he's playing at a level of basketball similar to how he was in the bubble.
Yeah.
This Nuggets team is going to be tough because they've also added a lot of depth pieces. The KCP, he would be an awesome piece to have on the Mavericks, right? Yep. His 3-and-D ability. You're not even asking MPJ to do that much. Aaron Gordon is the 3rd best player on this team right now, and he's having a career.
I really wanted him.
A career
I really
year.
wanted him.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I don't think that Luka can, Jokic activates Aaron Gordon in a way that no other player in the NBA could. And I think Luka would be the 2nd best guy to do that with him. But But because Jokic just kind of lives in and around the paint, things are just really easy for Aaron Gordon. But it'll be fun to see how the West kind of breaks down. And man, we got who we got next? We got the Rockets first, so that should be a W. But that's a team that we played really close in that game before Christmas.
They play hard.
Yeah,
they play really hard.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of shared connectivity there with Silas at the helm of things and Christian Wood, his previous team. So gotta play hard against them. Do you think, is Luka going to sit for this game?
I hope not.
Yeah.
I think we need as many wins right now as we can get with all these injuries. I think you have to play him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there'll be, some games hopefully down the stretch where you're there's not really any jockeying for position. Maybe in the last few games, you just got to hope so, right? That it's like, oh, you're going to be, hey, there's no other way around it. You're going to be the 4 seed. Hey, you're going to be the 5 seed. Hey, you're going to be the 3 seed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And that's where I would, maybe look to rest Luka right as you're getting into the playoffs, because I think at that point, there's no question on, getting warm for the playoffs. I think Luka will be ready to go and ready to play. That's just how he is. I wouldn't rest him, but you never know. Maybe against the Spurs, if you have to rest him on one of these, 3 subpar games, as you know.
Yeah.
I would pick the Spurs over the Rockets because, like I said, they play hard and they play for Steven Silas, and it'll be a much more fun game if Luka plays both games against them.
Completely agree. We'll be hopping back on in between the Rockets and the Spurs game to break that one down, and then we'll check in with everyone after the new year. So I think with that, a lot of Luka praise in this episode, and deservedly so. Wyatt and I will head out, but all you MFFLs, congrats on a great win last night, and keep it up.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.